Ma, I did not steal it. Shut up, you did it. How could you steal my gold bracelet?
You stole it. How could you? Sandra's voice cut through the luxury of the living room like a whip. Her bangles jingled harshly as she slammed her hand on the polished marble counter. The maids froze mid-step. Even Chief Enna's polished shoes seemed to pause in mid-echo on the floor. Epha, the young maid from Imo, sank to her knees. Her small hands fluttered against her chest, trembling. Tears streaked down her smooth cheeks. Ma, I didn't. I swear, I did not touch your gold bracelet. Sandra's eyes narrowed into thin slits. Don't lie to me. Do you take me for a fool? Her lips curled, a cruel smile tugging at the corners. I saw it disappear, and I know it's you. Chief Enna, tall and imposing in his senator suit, stepped forward, trying to calm the storm. Sandra, maybe... No, she snapped, spinning around, silk robe flowing around her ankles. Don't tell me what to do. You all think you can serve me and fool me, that my life is so easy that anyone can steal from me? Epha's shoulders shook violently. Ma, I swear, she sobbed, pressing her palms together in a pleading gesture. I would never, I never. The room seemed to constrict, the expensive curtains and imported furniture suddenly pressing down on Sandra like a cage. The polished floor gleamed under the chandelier, reflecting the tension in the room. Even the cat, normally languid on the balcony, hissed at the commotion. Days later, life seemed to return to normal, but something in the Alade mansion had shifted. Maids came and went faster than before. Some left abruptly, citing family emergencies. Others vanished mysteriously, leaving beds unmade and dishes stacked. Sandra blamed laziness, disloyalty, but a creeping unease shadowed her perfectionist world. Chief Enna remained calm, his face always a mask of patience. He said, "Let them go if they cannot meet your standards," he wrote, another check for a new agency. "Find someone better." Sandra smirked. Better indeed. A week later, a taxi screeched into the compound, headlights cutting through the thick morning clouds. Out stepped a tall, dark-skinned woman. She moved slowly, gracefully, eyes straight ahead, as if she had already memorized the house's every corner. "My name is Nia," she said softly, bowing slightly. Her voice was calm, even, measured. Sandra froze. That name stirred a distant echo in her memory, one she quickly brushed away. "You are from the agency, yes? Fine, drop your bag," Sandra said, her voice cold, authoritative. "I don't tolerate excuses. Clean the whole house first, then prepare breakfast. Quick, precise, nothing sloppy." Nia's eyes lowered. "Yes, ma," she replied, calm, silent, obedient, but somehow unnervingly assured. The first morning passed with eerie perfection. Floors gleamed, vases sparkled, even the stubborn bathroom tiles shone as if newly laid. Sandra prowled the house, scrutinizing every movement, trying to find fault, but Nia anticipated every step, every adjustment with a precision that unnerved her. Chief Enna came downstairs, inhaled deeply, and smiled. "Something smells different," he said. "Finally, a maid who understands the house." Sandra's lips tightened. "First day," she muttered under her breath, but unease lingered like a shadow behind her eyes. By nightfall, Sandra lay in bed, unable to sleep. A soft, familiar humming drifted from the servants' quarters, a lullaby from her past she couldn't place. Something about the rhythm tugged at memory like an old wound. She shook it off, but the unease persisted. The next few days followed the same pattern. Nia moved silently, wrapping the house in a new kind of peace. Meals were perfect, clothes ironed to military precision, everything arranged to flawless order. Even Chief Enna noticed the small, subtle improvements, like the aroma of fresh flowers lingering longer, or the gentle warmth in the kitchen air. "You should keep her," he said one evening after tasting a vegetable soup Nia had prepared. "She is extraordinary." Sandra forced a smile, but beneath it, a strange tension coiled in her stomach. Nia's calm, deliberate movements were almost too perfect. There was a familiarity in her presence, a memory hiding just out of reach. On the fifth night, Sandra decided to surprise her husband with his favorite coconut rice. She entered the kitchen quietly, intending to watch Nia in action, and froze. Nia stood over a pot, staring slowly, eyes closed, lips moving as if in prayer. Beside it, a small clay bowl held a dark powder Sandra didn't recognize. "What is that?" she demanded, her heart pounding. "It's how my mother taught me," Nia said softly, eyes opening, "for richer taste." Sandra's throat tightened. Her hand shook, almost knocking over a glass. There was something deliberate in Nia's calm smile, something she couldn't place but instinctively feared. That night, lying beside Chief Enna, Sandra couldn't sleep. The humming returned, now louder, echoing in the walls. A face flashed in her mind, the tearful maid she had accused of theft years ago, and suddenly the truth began to press in. Nia was no ordinary maid. The next morning, the house was silent, except for the soft clink of cutlery. Sandra watched from the balcony as Kunle and Nia laughed quietly in the garden. Her chest tightened. She hurried downstairs, but by the time she reached the garden, the laughter had stopped. Nia stood upright, bowing her head respectfully, a faint smile on her lips. Something about the calm in her eyes told Sandra that the reckoning had begun. She could feel it crawling along her spine, a cold, invisible thread tugging at her chest. Every instinct screamed that Nia was more than a maid, that every precise movement, every silent step, every faint hum she carried was purposeful, deliberate. Sandra's hand twitched against the balcony railing. She had to confront her now. She could no longer pretend that this was normal. The air itself seemed heavier, pressing down on her like the weight of her own guilt. "Nia!" Sandra's voice cracked, sharp as broken glass. The faint laughter she had heard in the garden just minutes ago evaporated. Nia froze mid-step, eyes downcast, her posture perfect, composed, but there was a subtle tension in the set of her shoulders. "Yes, ma?" Nia's voice was quiet, controlled, yet it carried a strange authority, the kind that made Sandra falter for a second she did not like. Sandra's bangles jingled harshly as she paced toward her, silk robes swishing around her ankles. "Why are you here?" she demanded, voice trembling with anger and something else, fear. "Why are you different from all the others? You move as if you own this house." Nia's lips pressed into a thin, calm line. She lowered her eyes briefly, then lifted them again, meeting Sandra's glare with a gaze that was both steady and piercing. "I am here to serve, ma," she said softly, "and to remind you of what you once lost." Sandra froze. Her mind snapped back to 1,000 small humiliations she had inflicted on the girls who had walked in her house. Epha, the tearful young maid she had accused of theft, the others who left abruptly, vanishing like ghosts. And now, this one stood before her, calm, precise, unnervingly familiar. You're her," Sandra whispered, the words barely leaving her lips. Her chest tightened, panic and recognition warring inside her. "Yes, ma," Nia replied, a subtle, unreadable smile tugging at her lips. "I am the one you wronged." Sandra staggered back, gripping the railing. Her pulse thundered in her ears. The house seemed to shrink around her, walls closing in, polished floors reflecting every flicker of emotion. The chandelier above flickered as though sensing the tension, and even the scent of the fresh flowers seemed heavier, almost pungent. Chief Enna appeared behind her, tall and steady, his face calm but his brow faintly furrowed. "Sandra," he said cautiously, sensing the storm but not fully understanding it. "Do not speak," she snapped, turning on him. Her voice was sharp, brittle, slicing through the luxurious silence. "I need answers, now." Enda raised his hand slowly. "Sandra, let's just—" "No, Enna, you don't get it." Her words trembled on the edge of hysteria. This maid, there's something in her, something familiar." Nia's lips quirked again, ever so slightly, but she said nothing. The silence itself seemed to carry power. Sandra moved closer, her heart pounding so hard it felt like it would burst. "Tell me," she demanded, "why are you here? Why did you return? Are you here for revenge?" Nia lowered her eyes briefly, then nodded once. "I am here to correct a wrong, ma, to balance what was broken." Sandra's stomach knotted. Every memory she had tried to bury, Epha's tear-streaked face, the accusation, the dismissal, rushed back like a tidal wave. She remembered the humiliation, the injustice, and now the fear. But fear that the girl she had wronged so cruelly had returned. And not just returned in control. That evening, the mansion shifted. Nia moved through the halls with quiet precision, wrapping the rooms in a soft but palpable tension. Each clink of cutlery, each faint hum she parried felt deliberate, as if she were signaling, marking the house. Sandra followed silently, watching her every move, trying to catch something, anything that could reveal a weakness. But there was none. Nia anticipated every step, polished every corner before Sandra could speak, corrected every imperfection before it even occurred. The precision was almost supernatural, and the calmness unnerved Sandra more than any shouting or tears ever could. Chief Enna noticed the change too, of course. "This vegetable soup, Morayo, it's extraordinary, really. You should learn her secrets." Sandra's jaw tightened. She forced a smile. She wanted to shout, to accuse, to demand the truth, but she couldn't. Nia's presence was magnetic, almost hypnotic, and it made her own words die on her tongue. That night, Sandra lay in bed restless. The faint humming returned, drifting from the servant quarters, soft but insistent. Her eyes stayed open, staring at the ceiling. Shadows stretched across the walls, twisting and bending in ways that felt unnatural. She could almost hear whispers, soft and distant, just beyond comprehension. A memory flashed. A girl, tearful and pleading, a gold bracelet she had accused of stealing. Epha, that face, those eyes, and now it was here, standing silently in the kitchen, cooking, polishing, humming. Sandra sat up sharply. Something about the rhythm of the hum tugged at a long-buried fear, a sense that she was no longer in control. The next morning, she decided she couldn't face it alone. She called Amaka, a trusted friend, and together they went to a small, faded yellow compound labeled Prayer and Solution Center. The air inside smelled of incense and old wood, heavy but grounding. An elderly woman with sharp silver eyes emerged, scanning Sandra as though reading her soul. "There is trouble in your home," the woman said immediately, voice firm and unyielding. "A spirit of revenge has entered. It comes through someone you hurt long ago. It feeds on fear, pride, and regret. Until it is removed, it will grow. Love will turn to hatred, and your marriage will falter." Tears pricked Sandra's eyes. "Please help me. I didn't know this would follow me." "You will not fight this with anger. You will fight with prayer and wisdom. Your humility is your only weapon." Sandra left the center with a hollow ache in her chest. Humility. The word felt foreign on her tongue. Yet, as she returned home under a sky heavy with clouds, she realized it might be the only way to survive what had returned. Back in the mansion, the tension was tangible. Nia moved silently, her presence almost supernatural, as if the walls themselves bent around her perfection. Sandra watched from the balcony, noticing tiny details she had never paid attention to. The way the flower petals curved just right, the faint alignment of the silverware, the subtle warmth of the air around the kitchen where Nia walked. It wasn't just efficiency, it was precision, power, control, and it was deliberate. Sandra's pulse quickened as she realized Nia was orchestrating every move, every smell, every sound in the house. It was a subtle takeover, and Sandra had no idea how to stop it. That night, Sandra and Amaka searched the kitchen, guided by the elderly woman's instructions. Beneath a loose tile, they found a clay pot wrapped in black cloth. Inside were strands of Sandra's hair, a fragment of her silk robe, and a dark powder. The faint humming rose from it, vibrating through the floor and the walls. Her pulse thundered in her ears. The whisper echoed again, sharper this time. "You know what you did." Her hands trembled as she pressed them to her cheeks. Every polished surface, every gleaming floor, every artifact of her wealth now felt meaningless. The mansion was no longer a palace of perfection, it was a stage for her guilt. From the shadows, Nia appeared, calm as ever, her posture precise, her eyes unreadable. She said nothing, but Sandra could feel the weight of her presence pressing into the room like a tide. Why are you doing this?" Sandra finally croaked, voice barely audible. "Why haunt me?" Nia's lips curved faintly. Not a smile, not a sneer, just a quiet acknowledgement. "I am here to remind you, Ma," she said softly. "Remind you of what pride and cruelty can sow." Sandra staggered back, gripping the counter for support. The memories came flooding. Epha's tearful face, the accusation, the humiliation, and now every small act she had taken for granted, every polish, every folded linen, every obedient servant, was a reminder that perfection meant nothing without humility. The house seemed to hold its breath as Sandra sank to her knees. I don't know what to do," she whispered. I don't know how to fix this." Nia stepped closer, careful, measured. "See, observe, care. Not for show, not because you are told, because it matters." That morning, Sandra began. She cooked, clumsily at first, tasting soup again and again, adjusting spices, burning a few pots, spilling some vegetables, but she persisted. She scrubbed floors herself, folded linen imperfectly, arranged flower vases without thinking about symmetry. Every act was laborious, every gesture a quiet apology. Chief Enna noticed. He smiled as he entered the kitchen, inhaling deeply. "The house, it feels alive," he said, watching Sandra stir a pot with concentration. "And you seem different." "I'm learning," Sandra admitted, her voice trembling. "Learning to see everything." Enna squeezed her hand gently. "Then we'll learn together," he said. "Laugh, stumble, make mistakes. Everything else doesn't matter." Sandra realized he was right. The mansion no longer demanded silence and perfection. It now demanded care, effort, and presence. Nia watched silently, guiding without words. She hummed occasionally, soft and precise, a melody that seemed to calm the house itself. And slowly, Sandra began to notice the subtle details she had ignored for years. The curve of a petal, the warmth of sunlight on the polished floor, the way laughter could echo through the halls and make them feel alive. One evening, as Sandra folded napkins awkwardly, she asked, voice barely above a whisper, "Why come back at all, Nia? Why leave me to my pride?" Nia paused, brushing a loose cornrow from her face. "Because some lessons are too important to leave unfinished. Pride leaves wounds that wealth cannot heal. I am here to ensure you see them before it's too late." Sandra shivered. She realized the reckoning wasn't punishment, it was transformation, and she wanted to rise to it. Days turned into weeks. Sandra burned meals, folded sheets incorrectly, dropped a plate or two, but each time she tried again. Chief Ena joined her in the kitchen sometimes, laughing at her mistakes, offering gentle guidance. Slowly, the house echoed not with silence, not with perfection, but with warmth, with effort, with shared life. At night, she would lie awake, remembering the whisper and the black clay pot. And slowly, the fear that had gripped her transformed into gratitude. She understood that humility was not weakness, it was the foundation of a home. One afternoon, Nia prepared to leave. She picked up her small leather bag, pausing at the doorway. "You've done well, Ma," she said softly, almost kindly. "The lesson is yours now. Use it well." Sandra swallowed hard, tears in her eyes. I will. Thank you for everything." Nia gave a faint nod, stepping out into the sunlight. The mansion exhaled, as if releasing a held breath. Weeks later, the house was alive. Sandra cooked with care. Ena helped. Floors were polished imperfectly, but with love. Laughter echoed freely. The mansion, once silent and tense, now resonated with warmth, life, and quiet joy. The mansion echoed with gentle laughter, a final reminder that even lessons about pride and humility could end on a little fun. If you think Nia was wrong for taking revenge, go ahead, subscribe, like, comment, and share below.